Well, the government says today's announcement will also include a range of measures to tackle all unfair and unreasonable abuses of leasehold. Again, we don't yet know the detail, but there are hints that they will act to tackle spiralling ground rents and freeholds being traded under people's feet. Leaseholds are one of the fastest growing types of home ownership in England and Wales, but in many cases leaseholders are stung for thousands in unexpected costs, as we highlighted in our exclusive report by James Longman last week.
Thousands of homeowners are having the ground beneath them sold off, and they may not even know about it.
What do we want? Homes for Britain! When do we want them? Now!
To ease the housing crisis, new homes are going up across the country. Many are leasehold, not freehold, and the difference is crucial. The new trend is for developers to sell freeholds to investment companies.
So here's what's happening. A developer builds a house. Here it is. It sells that house to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Here they are. But what it sold is the lease to that house. That's time in it. A couple of years later, the developer is then able to sell the freehold, that's the ground that it's on, to an investment company. Here he is, Mr. Investor. It's a way of making money on the same house twice. And this whole business is worth hundreds of millions of pounds every year to the developers.
I had no idea that my home would be used as an endless income stream for an investor.
Katie Kendrick bought her home from Bellway Developers. She was never told her freehold would be sold off. Now she wants to buy it. The price has gone from £4,000 to £13,000.
Where do they get that figure from?
I have absolutely no idea. It just doesn't seem ethically right to me at all. You know, I'm not a cash point for somebody else, and I never realised that I could be used as such.
What Bellway are doing isn't illegal. Some of their buyers just feel they weren't clear about their plans. We asked them to comment, but they did not respond.
I feel guilty for my family that I've made that wrong decision. You know, it might not impact on me now in my lifetime, but you buy a home for your children to have, and you know, to give them something, you know, and it's a massive burden to leave for your children.
So how much difference will today's announcement make to leaseholders? Let's speak to Sebastian O'Kelly from the charity Leasehold Knowledge Partnership. He's also a former property journalist. Welcome to you. And Claire Scott is here. Claire's in Salford. She bought a new build leasehold property in Bolton, but later encountered many of the issues also experienced by those people in that report. Hi Claire, tell us about this property. You didn't realise after you'd bought it that you signed a contract that would see the ground rent shoot up.
No, that's right. We bought the house back in 2011 from a national home builder. They offered us some money to help us get onto the property ladder because we didn't have enough deposit. The whole process went really, really well, and then fast forward to 2016 last year, we came to sell the house, and it fell through at the last minute because of the ground rent clause that the buyer's solicitors came across. And basically that says that we pay £295 a year, but then it doubles every 10 years until it gets to £9,440 a year by 2060. Those solicitors told the buyers that that house was not saleable, the lease was too onerous and not to buy it. So that house sale fell through. We've inquired about purchasing the freehold, again from an entity that we don't really know who's behind it. It's just whoever the home builder sold it on to. We don't know who actually owns our freehold.
So while you were in that house, the developer sold the freehold without you knowing anything about it?
Yes, so I think it happened a couple of years after we bought the house. So they just sold it on to an investment company. No one would have thought anything of it until now, until when you asked to buy it. The cheapest we've got it to at the moment is £40,000.
Right. So what impact does all this have on you?
Well, we can't sell our house. If we were to sell it, we need to get rid of that lease issue, and to do that you've got to buy the freehold at 40 grand. So either way you look at it, we've lost 25% of the value of our house. So
do you think you'll be there? That's it? You will be in that house now until, or what?
Well, no, this is what makes it worse. Back in September when we had a house buyer, our buyers were pretty much moved in. They'd ordered furniture, they'd got tradesmen all lined up to come and do modifications. It only fell through at the last minute, and we'd already completed on our next house because I'm actually heavily pregnant, and we were looking to move to another house in an area where the schools were where we wanted our child to be. So it literally was a case of there was about 5 days difference between us buying our house and our house sale falling through. So for us, we're absolutely financially crippled, riddled with worry, because we have this, what should be an asset that we've been putting money into for 5 years, is now actually a massive financial burden.
Let me bring in Sebastian. Claire, I mean, Sebastian, this is a scandal.
It is. It's a complete scandal, and the pity of it is this is PLC house builders selling these products, these leasehold houses. 8,775 of them sold in 2015, which is the last year where we have figures, and hapless first-time buyers coming off the assured short-term tenancies that you've been talking about earlier in your programme, go and buy these leasehold products and then find that they're these onerous ground rent terms which completely devalue the value.
And their solicitors not doing the job that they're supposed to do.
Many of them are bought with solicitors recommended by the developers, and I can't stress how strongly, more strongly, do not ever employ a solicitor recommended by a developer. Always choose a different one. That in itself a disqualification.
Do you have any, I mean, do you know if the government's going to clamp down on this? Is this going to come up in the White Paper today?
It will be addressed in the White Paper. The Housing Minister talked about it last week. I don't think there'll be legislative action banning leasehold houses or anything like that. They will deprecate leasehold houses and onerous ground rents, but there are certain circumstances where you've got to build leasehold houses where a developer doesn't own the land, for example. But as a practice, I think it's going to be strongly discouraged. One of the main PLC house builders has stopped doing it from January the 1st as a result of our efforts. Good. Others have got to follow. I think the Help to Buy scheme, where taxpayers are underwriting people's mortgages to buy these flawed, predatory products, will also have it's something that ministers can do just to stop that thing. I think throughout your programme, the one thing that hasn't really been brought up in this housing is that English housing, UK generally, but English has this awful speculative element to it, of a sort of get-rich-quick element in housing. And in leasehold, you see this very clearly. We're told that freeholds are owned by pension funds and it pays for yours and mine pension, for example. Absolute rubbish. Many of them are owned by shady companies where the directors are hidden by nominee directors or they're owned offshore. It's this speculative element that has got to end in British property.
Well, thank you for making that point. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on the programme. Sebastian O'Kelly from the charity Leasehold Knowledge Partnership and Claire Scott.